The Home Tech Podcast is supported by listeners like you. To find out more, go to HomeTech.fm/support. This is the Home Tech Podcast for Friday, June 22nd. From Sarasota, Florida, I'm Seth Johnson.
And from Denver, Colorado, I'm Jason Griffin. How you doing, Seth?
Good, Jason. Welcome back. How do we do this show again?
Yeah, I know.
I forget.
It's like one of the muscles. You don't use it, you lose it, right?
Right. Yeah, I certainly have lost it. I have no idea what I'm doing tonight.
Yeah, well.
Where are the show notes? How do you record something? How do you pick music instead of random language
Russian
guides?
language lessons?
Yeah. you could use that because the World Cup's on right now. So that's actually pretty
It works.
Pretty good,
it's appropriate.
Right? Yeah.
It's appropriate. Yeah, I gotta say I'm excited to be back, but I enjoyed a nice couple of weeks here off of the show. 1 week was for work, was out in Boston hanging out with the One Vision team, and had a great team week. The executive team there really put together a great series of activities and stuff. So dinners every night and things of that nature with the team, and was super busy out there and had a really fun time. And then lucky me, I came back and I got like 1 day at home to pack things up and headed on a road trip up to a really, really beautiful part of the country called the Teton Valley up in Idaho,
Nice.
Eastern Idaho, and stayed. It's our family reunion trip, which we try to do every year. We missed last summer, but we've done every summer other than that for quite a while. And we get my parents together and my brother and my sister and, their spouses and all of their kids. So great chance to get to see my nieces and nephews, and my kids get to hang out with their cousins, and had a really nice time. And I didn't look at a home technology blog for like 8 days or check my email or look at Slack, and it was wonderful.
So you have no idea what's happened.
I have no idea what went on while I was gone.
I could have just put fake stories from the onion in here, and you would have been like, oh my God,
that's right.
Amazon bought Crestron? How did that happen?
Right. I don't know if you would have got that one by me. But I really didn't pick up on much while I was gone. I think that one of the few little tidbits that I did manage to pick up is that I think I won the over-under that we had on HomeKit.
Yeah, I think 20, what was it, 10 seconds? It was under 10 seconds.
10 seconds.
Yeah, they actually, I would have said that next year we're going to have to go with some lower numbers, Jason, because I think you set that bar a little too high for them. So next year we'll have to say like 5 seconds over, under. It's basically if they're going to talk about it or not, because they really, I think it's just like a mature feature right now that it's kind of like, yeah, that's built in. It's unless something major happens in home control and home technology, I'm not sure that we're going to see that again on the main stage. And unless they update the app or something like that, and they want to walk us through on how the new app works. But
right.
I don't know.
Yep, I think you're right. But they'll keep hopefully quietly doing their thing and continuing to improve on that. And overall, I did take a few minutes to look at what they're doing, and they are doing some interesting things. I didn't see smart home featured very prominently, but I know there were some things that I'm sure you talked about on the episode that you did while I was gone related to the Apple TV, and there were some interesting ones I'm not sure if you talked about, but around augmented reality, which I think is
well, yeah, we talked about that a little bit, but I mean the biggest news related to the like home control industry is that Crestron, Savant, and Control 4 had their logos up there on the big screen for like all of 10 seconds.
Yeah. Oh, hey, and there you go.
As they were breezing by and saying that they were going to open up basically what they were going to do is open up a remote API into the Apple TV and give Control 4. I really don't know what it's going to look like, but it's kind of part of HomeKit actually. Like they're going to open up and allow remotes to control HomeKit. So there might be like real deep integration between Savant, Crestron, Control 4, and maybe other vendors into the HomeKit ecosystem that we haven't seen before. And my thought on that is I bet there's a number of Apple executives and managers that have nice fancy Crestron and Control 4 systems and Savant systems in their house, and they love them.
Sure.
But they are probably irked quite a bit if they go over to their fancy $600 to $1,200 remote, pick it up and yelling, and it doesn't do anything. It just does up, down, left, and right on the Apple TV, and they can't do voice search. They can't do all the fancy things that they at their Apple company are developing for the Apple TV. So
Right.
I'm betting that had more, push, and I'm glad that's something that they're wanting to do, because controlling and integration in the Apple TV has been kind of lacking compared to other things like Roku, where you can really get in there and integrate with it if you wanted to.
Right. Well, definitely, if you're listening to this episode and you didn't catch our wrap-up, we were joined by a friend of the show, Adam Justice, who has his own podcast, The Connected Home Show, which is great. If you're into this one, definitely go check that out. And he came on and joined you while I was out gallivanting around Boston, and helped you put together this WWDC wrap-up that we did, episode 214. So HomeTech.fm/214 if you're interested in getting more of our thoughts on that and you haven't listened to that one yet. But here we are, Seth, going to be just you and me tonight, catching up on a little bit of news, and we've got, we'll talk a little bit more about it, but next week, definitely tune in. We've got another Project episode coming up, which I'm having a ton of fun doing those, and really looking forward to that one as well.
Very cool. Yeah, that the project last week was great. I kind of remember putting together some of those theater rooms. Mostly those went in kind of during like the housing. Like if you had a client in the last, I'd say 5 or 10 years that after the recession that did a theater, they really loved movies and watching things. Like they really wanted that home theater experience. Most people were opting out of the theater for an extra bedroom, and so but I remember doing a bunch of the like dedicated home theater rooms back, during the bubble,
right?
in the giant McMansions, and yeah, man, it's a hard thing to do start to finish. Like there's a lot of stuff you have to figure out and think about, and I can't remember the gentleman's name you had on there. I'm not looking at it
Eric.
right now, but
Eric,
yep. He did his homework, man. You can really tell that he's put in the time to get a home theater set up.
Yeah, it was cool. I think my favorite aspect of the project as a whole is that we get listeners on from really varying segments of the market, right? And so we get people that are literally just people who have rolled up their sleeves and figured things out and have been really resourceful. And then Eric, definitely resourceful, did his research, but also I would say more of a pro installed system than we've had on in the project before. So it was cool to get that perspective and be able to share that on the show, because although the lines are blurring quite a bit between those two worlds, there still are pretty stark differences between some of the more professional installed systems and the requirements that go into that in terms of planning your infrastructure and getting all of that right, like he talked about a lot during my conversation with him. So I had a lot of fun. Thought it was a great conversation.
Yep, me too. It was like almost like 50-50. Like he was clearly the PM on the project, and the guy that was driving exactly what he wanted. And he had some help from tradespeople. He had help from them. So
interesting too, hearing about his builder and how the builder just kind of had no idea, frankly, how to really manage that. And I think that's a story that could probably does resonate with a lot of listeners to our show, including both the home technology pros who listen, as well as anybody who's ever worked with a builder or tried to go through that process of contracting somebody to come in and do the home technology the way that they wanted it. It can be difficult to find.
Right. Yeah, one of his funny things that he said that I kind of just laughed about was the being in early. Make sure you're talking to the home technology guys when you're putting up the wall, or before you're putting up the walls, or that it's an early conversation you want to have, not 2 days before drywall lands at the house, and you have 24 hours to figure out what you want to get, sign a quote, pay a deposit, and wire the home.
But Seth, it's all wireless now.
Yeah, right, it's all wireless.
It's all wireless. You're good.
Yeah. What do you say we jump into some home tech headlines?
Yep, let's do it. A new product called LifeDoor recently launched on Kickstarter. LifeDoor is designed to be mounted into the existing bedroom doors of your house. In the event that it hears a smoke alarm go off, it will automatically shut the door, illuminate the room with an LED, and sound a secondary alarm, as well as sending you a notification through an app. A closed door is vital in the event of a fire. This is especially true for those with limited mobility, such as the elder. Joel Seelinger, a professional firefighter and co-founder of LifeDoor, untold digital trends.
I saw the video on the link we'll put in the show notes at HomeTech.fm/216. Wow, 216. I thought this was kind of corny at first, and then I started thinking about it. I'm like, wow, this is really cool. You can close your interior doors with this little box. You just kind of push a button, and it makes sense for fires. Like, this is, to segment and compartmentalize everything out. But
yeah, that's exactly what it's for. And I thought it was interesting. My wife is really big on closing our bedroom door at night, and sometimes I've given her a hard time, like, do you care if the door's open, like closed or open? Like, why does it matter? And it's funny, I had no idea. I have to admit, I had no idea that a closed door made such a big difference in a fire. They talked about on this website, it can mean the difference between 1,000 degrees and 100 degrees in your bedroom. And so, like you said, compartmentalizing the house, buying yourself a little bit of extra time to get out, it can literally be life and death. And so I thought it was worth mentioning, and go check it out on Kickstarter. I'm always a fan of smart home technology when I see it being applied in ways that aren't just fun and entertaining or your very typical types of applications for security and things. I thought this was a fairly novel use of technology, and definitely worth a mention.
Yeah, I like it. Also, could be used in hurricanes. You're supposed to shut your doors inside the house when a hurricane comes through. I only know this because we were driving away, and we were almost to the highway, and my wife goes, "Oh my God, I didn't close the doors." And I said, "Are you supposed to do that?" And she Googled it real quick and said yes, and we had to turn around and go all the way back home, run and close all the doors,
nice.
Lock up the house again, and leave. So yeah.
Interesting.
Yep. Flow Technologies has introduced a new reimbursement program, which is available as a subscription service for homeowners with the Flow water leak prevention devices installed in their homes. Home Protect, it's the name of the service. Subscribers suffer major water damage in their homes. The program will reimburse its customers for up to $2,500 of an out-of-pocket homeowner's insurance deductible. Not a bad idea. I kind of like that. It's $5 a month though. So
it's like extra insurance for your insurance, right? It's insurance to cover your deductible. But I think this one was cool and worth a mention for almost purely selfish reasons. I'll admit, I've been thinking about investing in a system like this. My wife and I go out of town, and that's one of my biggest concerns, honestly, is you get a water main or some sort of water issue that floods the house while you're gone, and that can be a major problem. So having the ability to control that and monitor it is great for peace of mind, and it's definitely an investment that I am looking to potentially make in our home here. Yeah,
this one is up on my list too. I in fact, someone in my homeowners association, I was talking to him over the last week, and he had some major water damage in his house, like just a water pipe busted, and now he's got to redo a bunch of stuff in his house. So it happens, right. And especially you probably for more different reasons than me. Like you're probably worried about like cold pipes and that kind of thing busting in winter, but I mean pipes can break anytime. Turns out.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. Moving on here, in late November last year, Google made it much easier to issue multiple commands or questions to your Google Home by allowing you to perform 2 actions at once. Now, that functionality is expanding even more with support for up to 3 commands. This feature is rolling out to users across the United States. So I have to admit, Seth, I didn't realize before that it was limited to 2, and it appears that they're sort of incrementally building this up. I know Josh AI, I think you can string about as many of them together as you want. I know I've heard people rattle off at least five or 6 there. So appears there's definitely some technology that they're still working to improve there, but it does seem like it's getting better.
Yeah, I know that the Google thing has, and I have one sitting on my desk in front of me. Like I know that it has this feature. I just keep forgetting to use it, or I don't really know what 2 actions I would use one right after another. So
sure,
or 3 at this point. Like it's giving more options, and it's kind of like I don't know if
you're
I need
struggling
these
to find use cases.
Well, I don't use it for very much other than say play music and tell me the weather, tell me the news, that kind of thing. So like it's not a very useful device,
and if
but
you think about it,
that's all I use it for.
Yeah, and if you think about it, it's like if you really want to start getting up to 3, 4, 5 actions, what you really need is a scene.
Yeah,
so that you can just say good morning, and exactly. So
TP-Link is launching its second mesh router today, the Deco M9 Plus, with 2 major upgrades over their predecessor. First, it boasts a tri-band router instead of a dual band. And second, the M9 Plus features support for Zigbee and Bluetooth, letting the router connect to a wide variety of low-powered smart home devices like smart lights, light switches, door locks, and other things. The router also integrates with Alexa and if this, then that. A single unit of the M9 will sell for $180, and 2 packs will go for $300.
There you go. Looks like
mesh router. They're up in the game. Mesh router with Zigbee, another mesh technology, and Bluetooth.
Yeah.
Bluetooth, that's mesh too. So it's mesh all the way around.
Yeah, it's all mesh all day. Clearly the mesh router companies who produce this hardware are having to find ways to differentiate, right? Make their product stand out from the tons of other options out there, and so this one sounds great and could certainly be useful for the right audience. I know that in the story I was reading, it says you use the TP-Link, I think, Deco app to then control the devices that are connected to it, and who knows how good that app is or what the user experience is like. But all the same, the price point is still pretty low. A 2-pack for $300 is a good price, and if you get that added functionality and you're able to take advantage of it, all the better.
I never picked up that $100 thing from Amazon. Like when I went
waiting.
back to it, it must have hit some news cycle somewhere, and it went out of stock. And I was like, oh well, I'll get back to it. And I keep forgetting to put it back in the cart.
So the lesson there, Seth, is buy them before we talk about them on the show.
Yeah, we're just too popular, Jason.
Yeah.
Buy on impulse and before the show hits.
Right, exactly. I'm sure that's exactly what it was.
Yep.
Amazon introduced a new delivery solution for apartment complexes that promises to deliver both convenience and safety alongside your actual package, of course. Meet Hub by Amazon, a container that allows for the storage of packages so they're not strewn about a lobby or potentially stolen. These things look just like traditional Amazon lockers, but instead of being installed in public spaces or businesses, they are installed inside of apartment complexes. So not a typical home tech story here, but I thought it was one worth a mention. If you are an apartment dweller, this may be something to keep an eye out for.
Yeah, it's another Hub, right? So I can ring the bell, right?
That's right. They stole our name.
By the way, the mic's
Oh, great. Thanks, cool. I really don't care that the mic's on. Okay, shush. All right.
Did it start that sentence with "by the way"?
It just it just wants you to know that there's like stuff going on. So yeah, it's by the way, the mic's off. So because I evidently got too close to it with the button here. So,
Funny.
Yeah, I like this idea. It's like Amazon has invented what's that called? The post office box. Yeah, the post office box.
That's right. That's right.
Good going, guys. Yeah. On June 19th, Vivint announced a new partnership with Google that makes all of its smart devices voice-enabled by the way of Google Assistant. By the way, the microphone is off. The company will be including...
We didn't plan that.
The company will be including 2 Google Home Mini devices with each smart home system purchased. I think this is pretty big for like the do it for me crowd, right? Like because Vivint is I've known a lot of people in my family and that are kind of like they like smart home stuff, but they're not wealthy by any means, and they just want to have something cool, and they go out and get a Vivint system,
right.
And you can do a lot with those things.
It's funny you mentioned that because I was just thinking as I was reading this story, like, and we're guilty of it too, but I think across the board you hear a lot these days about do-it-yourself home technology, and in professional circles, certainly you hear people talking about this idea of do it for me, but I think we talk about it in a little bit of a different context. I think what's interesting to me is that you don't hear, I think, as much about companies that are doing true like smart home as a service, like smart home as a subscription, like the Vivint's of the world. And I think there really is a model there. I don't know how Vivint is doing profit-wise. I know that they generate a boatload of revenue, and they're always like number 1 or number 2 on the CE Pro Top 100, and they're certainly bringing in a ton of cash, and so they're a really interesting company. And I think, like you said, you hit the nail on the head. That's their target market is people who want some cool smart home technology. They don't necessarily need like a fully integrated audio video type of system that would be more along the lines of what a professional integrator would do. Company like Vivint actually presents, I think, a pretty compelling offering. So they're certainly one to keep an eye on in my mind.
Yep, and we actually talked to those guys, Jeff Lyman of Vivint.
We did.
Way back, HomeTech 112, so HomeTech.fm/112, that'll get you there.
Yeah.
Way back in, what was the date on this thing? May of 2016, so wow.
Yeah, maybe time to re-engage,
Yeah.
see if we can get someone back on. Be good to catch up. Moving on to our last quick headline here, Amazon recently released the Fire TV Cube. Now, I'll preface this a little bit. It's a kind of old news. I think this is a couple weeks old, but since I've been traveling and stuff, Seth, you and I didn't get a chance to really talk about it, and so we wanted to mention it on the show. This, as the name, the Fire TV implies, it runs the expected apps like Netflix, Hulu, HBO Go, Prime Video, all of that. But it also is essentially a full-featured Echo. So it's like the Echo and the Fire TV had a baby, and here you go. Right?
An ugly square baby. It's a very ugly baby.
An ugly square baby. It's always listening for the wake word, and you can talk to it when your TV's off. A couple other interesting notes I pulled out of here. It's got a IR blaster. It comes with an IR extension cable. So they've clearly done a little bit of thought and planning around having the ability there to control AV devices in the living room. And it does support CDC techno. Is that what it's called?
CEC.
Yeah, they had a typo in the story. So CEC, via HDMI, which is another control protocol. So I think that's kind of cool. I have no idea what the implementation is like and how well it'll work, but at least it gives you the option there to have it control some of your basic AV components in the living room if you so desire.
Yeah. I think it's a smart. It's almost like a universal remote, right? Like, because it's this kind of would compete with something like a Logitech, perhaps. That I don't know how good the scripting engine is on it. But if you just had a TV and you wanted to walk in, yell at it, and make it do something, this fits the bill. I think it's a pretty good thing.
Yeah, pretty basic. I think that whatever you're doing in the living room or the media room area, I'm definitely still a massive proponent of a wand style hard button remote.
Right.
And just having that around, having the Fire TV Cube there as maybe a secondary option if you want to change a quick channel on your cable box or something. Right. I think that would be probably the most useful use case that I could think of.
I wonder, and I wonder how far Amazon will go into the living room like this. Like, how are they going to just stop here at mating these two devices, or are they going to keep going and make a wand type remote? I'm pretty sure you get like a little wand remote with the Fires. I'm not sure about this one, but with the Fire TVs, you normally get a normal remote.
I'm sure you would. I'm sure you would. Yeah, that's a good point. I mean, I can't imagine that they would sell you a Fire TV of any type without some sort of a handheld remote. But
yeah,
it's going to be limited on the buttons, though, right? So it's not necessarily going to be great at controlling via one-way IR your cable box, right? Like,
right.
Even if they try to do that, that to me is going to be pretty limited. Symphony Hi-Fi's in the chat room, and he says, Cube looks interesting but screams nightmare for the pros. And I can empathize. I that's certainly not the target market. I don't think that's clearly not who they're aiming for there, but I know it's gonna bleed over into those installations where clients are going to see it and want it to try and be integrated with a system that, frankly, it's just not designed to be integrated with. But at least they give you an IR extension cable, so you've got a fighting chance, right? Yeah.
So I'm looking at what's in the box here, and they definitely have one of the little up, down, left, right. It's got a couple more buttons on it than like an Apple TV remote, but it does come with a remote. The power adapter, 2 batteries, yay. The IR blaster, and then it also comes with an Ethernet adapter. So if you don't like your Wi-Fi and you want to plug it right into the hard line, like you should be, like a real man, you can do that with this device. So.
Yeah, don't be a savage.
Exactly. Yeah, don't go Wi-Fi. Not for 4K content. Like, go ahead and plug that thing in and get your internet going.
They gave you the port for a reason.
Yeah. So this thing is almost, it's $120. Not a bad price. They're also bundling it, looks like, with the cloud cam, so you can kind of, which is their indoor camera thing, so you can use that in conjunction with it, and for $200. So not a bad deal for those two things. It's ugly, but
Final word on that.
Yeah.
I'll give you the final word on that. All right. Well, let's jump in here. We wanted to have a quick discussion before we wrap things up about Plex, and I know they recently announced their grid guide, which made some headlines, and I think for good reason. And we'll talk about a little bit more about what that is and your experience with it. But we also wanted to talk about Plex in general a little bit. I know you've got direct experience with it. I'm a little bit of a dumb guy when it comes to Plex. I have to admit, I know the gist of it, and how it really started was a movie server offering, but they've really expanded that out and are doing much more with live TV these days. And we thought this would be a good opportunity to chat about it a little bit.
It's funny you say that. I think that Plex originally started off as, didn't it start off as like Xbox Media Center? I think like XBMC is what they called it. I'm going like way back to remember this, but
it might have that rings a bell very vaguely, and sort of spun off from there. You're saying?
Yeah, I guess Plex began as a freeware hobby project in December 2007 for the developer who wanted to have a media center application as Apple Mac. I'm reading here off of Wikipedia. This is enthralling, but none of the existing players met his needs, which is easily explained. I mean, at the time, 2007, I mean, Kaleidoscape may have been like what everybody was saying they should use. So what he did was he ported the Xbox Media Center, which is now known as Kodi, over to the Mac OS as a challenge, and basically started from there. And when you do this, when you split the code base on a open source projects like Xbox Media Center, like you can do that. Like you can go to their code and say, all right, I want to use this, and I'll start my own project. I think there's some things like where you have to like leave some parts of the whatever you used open source to be used. So there's a bunch of history that goes way back on this thing, but it does go back to 2007, which is a lot longer than I thought. Like I probably remember hearing about Plex in the past like couple of years, not back in 2007 when all I was hearing about was Xbox Media Center from like people that just wanted to have more pain in their life than anything, because it was a god awful nightmare to set one of those things up and use it.
I never did it myself, I have to admit, but I heard a lot of horror stories.
Yeah, it was no fun. I actually had one of the old Xboxes, and when we got done I think there was a game that we wanted to play on it, and when we got done using it, like I went ahead and cracked it open and installed this thing on there, and it worked for a little while, and then like the CD drive went bad and I could never use it again. So I just like tossed the thing. But it was very slow. It was very clunky. It looked, since it was done kind of like in the open source world, it looked nicer than anything else that you can get like on the mass market, with the exception of maybe Kaleidoscape, because they had a really good interface. But I think everybody was trying to copy what they were doing or copy elements of what Kaleidoscape was doing. In some respect, because you'd see Kaleidoscape and then you'd see something like Xbox Media Center and you go, oh, well, I could make a Kaleidoscape system for free. I have an Xbox laying around, and you do it and it would kind of half work. So, but that's if you want to know more about the crazy history of Plex and Xbox Media Center and everything, we'll put a link to the Wikipedia here, and you can go read through it in your own time, because.
And with that, we'll conclude our home tech history lesson of the week here.
We've got a grid guide to talk about.
That could be a good segment. Yeah.
This week in history, let's talk about the Xbox Media Center fork that came to me. Yeah, no, let's never have this segment again. So, so the big news this week was that they had this grid guide come out, and in the past, you'd have this like really ugly interface. If you wanted to see what was on or tonight on TV, you pretty much couldn't. Like you could see what was on right now. And we'll put a link in the show notes that has a really good example of this. They have the grid guide up at the top, which we're all familiar with the grid guide. Like every cable box out there has one. TiVo's had one for years.
Yeah, it's the standard. If you're not familiar with what we're talking about, you've seen it a million times. It's the standard layout for every single cable and satellite box out there at this point.
If you've ever watched TV in the past, year.
Yeah, that's what we're referring to.
I would say everything uses this, right? But for whatever reason, Plex wasn't using it. They were using more of like cover art. So when you went to watch a TV show or a movie that was on air, like you'd go over to the guide and it would be just like a list of cover art. And there's a picture of that there. And it would say today at 2 p.m. or has been playing since 1 p.m. or something like that. It was just awful. Like it was unusable. Like there was no way to use it that I could see. So this is a huge improvement, and it kind of like pushes me towards like this could be a complete replacement for the TiVo in the future if I ever wanted to go back to having like cable services or anything like that, because it manages all my local stuff, but they're also kind of getting into the game of doing remote services and remote apps. So it's like kind of becoming like a software-based hub, if you will, of all of your media and everything that you want to do that's media related, whether that be watching TV or listening to podcasts. They do that now. They're really aiming to make it like an all-in-one service.
Right. I've been hearing a ton about them over the last, I'd say 6 to 12 months, if not more. And like I said, I get the concept. I'm looking at their website right now. It's got on the main page there, the 3 big tiles that you're presented with are your media. So like you said, Seth, there, your collection of movies, photos, music, what have you. In the middle there, live TV and DVR. Says easily cut the cord by streaming free over-the-air live TV and record your favorites. And then news and podcasts. So they've clearly expanded out from their origins, which we talked about a minute ago. I got to say that I'm still like where I get a little bit confused is the architecture. So it's pretty straightforward for me to understand when it was, okay, I'm going to store my movies on a Mac Mini down in the basement, and then I'm going to install the Plex app on, say, a Roku or something like that, right? And that'll allow me to then stream those movies in my house to whichever TV. How does the live TV implementation work? Because Plex doesn't do their own hardware, I don't think. So you've got to have some sort of hardware to plug into your TV. What is the architecture of that?
There are a couple of devices. I use the HD Home Run because I was using that with Channels, or I am using that with Channels, which is just an iOS app with a grid guide. So the HD Home Run is a little device that basically you plug an antenna into it and it goes out there, figures out what all channels you can watch, and basically gives you an Ethernet port for the output, and it just puts this device sits on your network. I mean, for the most part, it's the littlest. Like, I've only had one problem with it, and it was unplugged.
Well,
I went to the rack.
problem.
I'm like, what the heck? Yeah, what the heck was wrong with this thing? I get no TV signal. Plex is complaining, Channels is complaining, and I kind of let it go because we never really watch TV. Kind of let it go for like a month. I'm like, I got to look into this. Like, what's wrong with the HD Home Run? Why isn't it working? And I went in and probably a month ago I was messing around the rack and I moved some of the power stuff around. And I must have knocked off the little power block that comes with it, and I plugged it back in. It fired right up, and everything started talking to it just perfectly, like it never missed a beat. So I got to say, it's probably one of the best consumer electronic devices out there. It's for what it does. Like if you just need to get tuner and antenna support from this thing, it's a great little device. I can't recommend it highly enough.
So I'm looking at their website, and it's similar, it looks like, to the Tableau in the sense that it doesn't have like an HDMI output, right? It's taking the TV shows that it can pull from over the air, and it's putting those on your network, and then you've got to have some sort of client to then stream those from. They list smart TVs, tablets, smartphones, computers, media streamers, so all the usual suspects there.
Yeah, and they have their own little app that you can use, and possibly a DVR thing. Like you can download some software from HD, or what is it, Silicon Dust, I think is who makes that. We'll put that in the show notes too.
Yeah.
they have their own software, but like more than likely you are not using that. You're using it for Plex or some other type device. Like it's kind of just like we give you the API or what video, how to interact with our device. And the video streams, here's how the video streams work. You go make an app for it, but we have our own app if you just want to pay for the device and, walk out the door. So it's not, it's kind of like just like a hardware piece that you kind of have to do this. So if you want to have TV inside your house from an antenna on a thin client like Plex, which is just an app, you need this device. I also think they have a version of this that does cable cards too. So if you're here in the States and you need to, if you still want to have like cable service, but you're okay with not having a cable box and you want to use a Plex or channels or something like that for your cable DVR, you could totally use that device. I don't see it.
I'm looking at it here. The HD Home Run Prime. It says unleash your cable TV with cable card. Yeah.
So you plug a cable card into that thing. It gives you a couple of tuners, I'm sure, off of it, and you're good to go. So yeah, it's that's one way to 3 tuners. It'll give you 3 tuners off of it. So it's just not a bad deal if you still want to have cable service and still have the ability to get those channels into Plex or another client like channels.
Gotcha. Yeah, I definitely am interested in solutions like this. I've still got that Tableau, the great friend of the show, Win, who, if you're listening, Win, thank you. I still haven't purchased an antenna. That's what's stopping me from figuring that out, because I don't know. Seth, are you you're using an outdoor antenna, I assume?
Yeah, I ran a line for an outdoor antenna and put it on the side of the house. I don't know. Like, I think we're kind of far outside of like what I think you'd be fine because you're pretty close to Denver, relatively speaking. That's
what I'm wondering, if I can get away with using an indoor antenna. That would certainly make things easier
to figure out. Yeah.
So I'm not exactly anxious to start running wire in my house.
There's a website. I can look it up here and put it in. You basically put your address in, and it'll tell you what channels you're definitely going to get. And if you're so far out that this digital stuff doesn't travel as far as the old analog did, because it's digital, it's high definition, right? It's ones and zeros. Either you're getting the ones and zeros or you're not. And if you get too far out of that ones and zeros, the signal just stops. It doesn't drop off. You don't get static. It's gone.
Right. So it's binary.
Yeah, exactly. So and you get all sorts of weird artifacts with that too. Like if you have echoes hitting the antenna, it can do some strange things to the signal as well. That don't really translate well to like what we're used to with analog antennas. So for me, it was just kind of like, I'm a little bit further out than I want to be to reach like the half dozen channels that I really, really want to make sure that I get, like the local networks and that kind of thing. So I went onto this website and looked it up, and it said basically, you're going to need a higher gain antenna, and none of the indoor ones I looked at were kind of up to snuff. So I ended up, and I can run cable, so I ran a cable and poked it outside and put an antenna on the side of the house, and there it's been, I think we've watched probably a total of 3 hours on TV since I've done that. So it's been a great investment, let me tell you.
Great use of your time.
Yeah, exactly.
All right.
Well, 6 hours to install a damn antenna, and then I watched 3 hours of TV in the next 2 years on it.
Yeah, you'll get to your ROI eventually.
Yeah,
I'm sure
someday.
Cool. Well, to come full circle, I mean, you're using Plex. What do you think? Is it this is an option that I should be considering for my own home?
Yeah, I don't know. It depends on what you need. I'm using it for, so we love movies. We will watch movies over and over again. Like, I don't know if you're the type of person, and a lot of people are not.
I'm
buy
not.
a movie, and just rewatch it. Like, some movies I'm not like that. Like I'm okay with streaming something really stupid, like XXX the latest Triple X movie or Baywatch or something that I know is just, or Transformers. I mean, I know that's going to be dumb. I'm never going to watch it more than once.
Yeah.
Maybe for the special effects. And they're like, okay, that was a nice, whatever. But there's some movies that like we get and we want to keep for years, and we rewatch a ton of them. You basically, once you have those movies, you have to figure out how to get them off of the DVD or off of the Blu-ray and onto your computer in some form or fashion. And there's a couple of programs out there that kind of make this. I don't know if it's like legal programs or whatever, but yeah, a little bit of Googling, you can find like tutorials on decent websites on how to set this up. The programs don't look pretty. The one I'm using, I think it's called Make MKV or something like that. You basically just put the disc in and hit go. It downloads to your drive a bunch of like weird files, like basically track titles. Like it doesn't really look anything up for you. So you kind of have to dig through those track titles and figure out, okay, this one right here, this one must be the movie. And you take that and you copy it right over to your, you put that, kind of organize that file inside of where Plex is pointed at and looking at for movies. And Plex will kind of go through every now and then and scan, or you can set it to scan if you change any files. It'll scan automatically. But it'll go through and it'll go up and look up all the cover art and all the actors and actresses that it'll download all that information and kind of compile it and put it in there. And every now and then you get a false positive, or you want to get in there and change out the cover art. You can totally do that. You can go in and make tweaks and that kind of thing, and it'll save that off to the side too. So, if you do like, what did we do? We found out, like, I've got the James Bond collection, right? So it's like every single James Bond movie that has ever been made, and in the past, I think 50 years or something. So we've got that, and what I did was I ripped them all, and then I put them in, and they're just like sporadically, like Dr. No's over here, and then like you only live what is it? You only live once. I'm just trying to think of James Bond titles now, and I can't. But
I'm the worst.
Dr. No's over here, Goldfinger's over here. Like it's like they're all over the place. But you can go in and kind of tweak the database and say, this is James Bond 1971. This is James Bond 1972. You can just basically force it to like group them together and make your interface a little bit better. So there's some like legwork, I'm not going to lie, on categorizing movies and that kind of thing. And if you're into it, I'd say it's worth it. But if you're not, like, it's not worth it.
Yeah.
So you really have to want to do that.
Yeah, we're definitely not. We enjoy movies, but very, very rarely watch them more than once. So I'm not. That's not a compelling value proposition to me. And it sounds like for the way that we watch, we're better off focusing on something that just gives us the apps like Netflix, and we've got, we certainly watch Hulu and Amazon Prime, and then we'll need live TV, because if I can't record soap operas, then I may disappear from the face of the planet.
Well, and that's one thing it can, like, so where your TV shows end up in when you record them is kind of the same place as you would store your quickly amassing Bubble Guppies collection.
Yeah.
Like, so if you wanted to record, download, not download, but like take the discs and rip them. Technically you can download these movies and find them, they fall off the back of a truck or whatever. Like, you can take those. I've never done that, but people do it. You put the files in there and it'll read it just like any other file. But I've got the discs. I rip them off there, rename them to the little thing they need to be renamed to, and then put them in Plex, and it reads them. And it's got a decent, like, you can organize the TV shows by season. So like I'm looking at, there it is, launch. I'm looking at my account right now, and under TV, I've got a couple of different libraries, basically. Like, you've got your movies that you put all your movies in. You got TV shows. I've got like some home movies that I wanted to keep in a place that I know is getting backed up and all that stuff. So like I took those home movies and just dumped them in there and gave them like a picture and some cover art and like my daughter's baptism movies in there, like just things that we may want to go back and watch. So they've got a pretty good thing for that. I got a holidays movies that's just basically all of the like Christmas time, Thanksgiving, Charlie Brown Thanksgiving type movies that really don't want cluttering up the main library and getting in the way in there, because you only watch them maybe one time a year. So those are all in their own library, and then I've got the TV shows. May have already said that, but the TV shows, you when you click into them, they're organized not only by the TV show, but like here's Bobby's World. I've got 3 seasons of Bobby's World for some reason, and a couple of episodes in each season. But it breaks it out by each individual season and gives you cover art for those too. So it's kind of a nice setup that they've got going here, and you're able to kind of get into it and drill down to the episode you want, or just like you need some rest time, and let's just hit play on this entire season of Bubble Guppies and let it roll until she gets distracted and starts coming back and yelling. So yeah,
let that Bubble Guppies roll.
Yeah. That's funny. That is a favorite cartoon. Like,
oh yeah, it's a good one.
I do not understand how addicting it is, but if you put that on, she is zoned in. It is so cute.
Yeah, they love it. My daughter, both of my kids are the same way. So
yeah.
Anyways, all right, cool. This is a good primer. I think hopefully people found it informative. I know Plex has been busy. They've been changing a lot and growing a lot, their offerings at least, and it's been a little bit tough to keep up. And so it's cool to hear. And I know that grid guide, looking at the picture you alluded to earlier, looks a lot better than what you had before, and will certainly be way more familiar to most users. So that seems like a pretty significant improvement there in terms of the overall usability.
Yeah, there's one more thing I got to mention, is that you may ask, what's this cost Seth to do? And I guess out of the box, none of this costs any money. But they do offer you can download the Plex media server, install it on a computer, or they've got a ton of other devices. Like if you have a NAS drive, a compatible NAS drive, like a network attached storage drive, you can install it there and just point it to all the media you already have on there, and it'll go through and just kind of run on there and look at all that information and say, okay, here's where the movies are. And then, but they've got some like advanced features, like, and I didn't really think these were interesting until I really needed one once. And basically what you can do is you can take the movies that you have and you can download them to your phone. You can be outside of your house and stream them to your phone. So one of the big things, like we were at a Thanksgiving dinner, daughter started acting up.
Oh yeah.
It's like she's bored to death because all these grown-ups are sitting at the giant table and stuffing their faces and talking, and she just wants to go play. And so I basically pulled out my phone, hit play on a Bubble Guppies episode. Here we go again. This episode is brought to you by Bubble Guppies, by the way. And like it just connects back to your house and starts playing the movies that are on your movie server. And not only that, like I'm gonna write this up for the next trip. I've been doing this, but I've been like refining it. The Apple TV app. If you're at we've been to Disney a couple of times. I brought the Apple TV. I've just taken the Apple TV out of my house and brought it to the hotel that we were staying in and plugged it into the what's it called? Like just straight into the HDMI that's being used on the TV, and I was able to basically everything that's on my Apple TV is everything we own, right? Other than the HD Home Run, which is the live TV stuff. But now that's connected to Plex, so my Apple TV has the Netflix, it has HBO, it has a Plex on it. Like between those three things, I can watch anything that I would normally watch at my house anywhere in the world. I just go in and plug the Ethernet in.
Right.
And given that there's probably like region restrictions and that kind of thing, I get the thing on Wi-Fi, and I have some tricks to doing that I'll probably do a write-up and put it on and we'll talk about later. But basically I get the Apple TV connected to the internet, and I am basically sitting at my living room home entertainment system in a hotel room.
Very
and I can
cool.
watch any movie that's back sitting on the server at home. I can watch anything that's on Netflix. I can watch any channel now too that's connected to the Plex. So if I wanted to watch live TV from Sarasota and I'm like in Denver or in Boston or wherever, I can just as long as I have my Apple TV or my iPhone, because my iPhone has Plex on it, I can do that too.
Wow.
And those cost money. So they have 3 pricing plans here, and let me read these to you, and you tell me which one you think is best. 3 months for $15 every month, so every 3 months you get charged $15. Yearly for $40, or you can just pay a lifetime, and you have all the features for life for $120.
Wow. That's crazy.
Yeah, and the grid guide. The reason I say that the grid guide is only available to this Plex. The grid guide is only available to the Plex Pass subscribers, so you have to have that. But I when I started using this, and I said, man, this is really well done. They're updating it all the time. The apps are great. I just went ahead and paid them, the lifetime, because pay for good software if you find it, and this is definitely a good software to have.
Yeah. Yeah, I wish I would have known about that had that option for our vacation. I can tell you that my daughter is very perplexed when we go somewhere and she can't ask for her favorite show and have us just pull it up on demand. And not that that's a bad thing, but sometimes when you're trying to enjoy a vacation and you've got a grumpy 3.5-year-old, it would just be nice to be able to put on some bubble guppies or whatever and have them relax for a little bit. So that's a pretty interesting use case. I'll have to get some more details from you about how you've implemented that. One
other huge feature that you get is the multiple users feature. So Jason, if you ever get around to setting up a Plex server at your house, or you really don't even need that, I can just give you a login to my Plex account. You can set up here's Jason's user, and you put that Plex app on your phone. You have access to anything that in my library that I give you access to.
Wow.
So if you want to watch any one of my 300 or 400 movies that I have on there, or my growing collection of bubble guppies, I'm telling you, it's getting it's getting crazy. I
think we've got them all.
That can be done. So, and if you get set up with yours and you have movies and stuff on yours, it's one way to kind of share movies between two homes that may not be very close. It's one easy way to do that, and they make it super easy. Like my brother has a Roku. I send him a login to using my Plex server, so he basically can go on his Roku and watch any movie that he wants anytime.
All right. Very cool. Very cool. Well, I know that was informative for me, and I'll definitely take a closer look. We're going to cut the cord. I'm determined, but as listeners to the show know, things don't tend to happen very quickly around my house these days. But gonna make it happen.
It's a slow burn.
That's right. That's a good way to put it. All right. Well, shall we move on? I know we're moving to wrap up here. We've got a pick of the week, though. We can chat about a little bit. I think this was a pretty cool one. We've talked a little bit on this episode about professional installations and what that world looks like. And this is a pretty nice before and after shot. And as a former integrator, I know I dealt with my share of these messes where you got to go in and really clean up a room where it just frankly sort of looks like a bomb went off. And this is a,
well, I think they caused this bomb to go off. This is what I walked into as an installer. Like, this is what the wire guys left for me to come in, and it's like, okay, make this look pretty. Put the rack in, make it work.
Gotcha.
But like, this is, I wouldn't say like normal, but it's definitely what it's not a complete
redo. It's more of a progress shot, is what you're saying.
Yeah. This looks like they're walking in. Well, there's a couple of things that give away a couple of things that may have happened on this install. It's your standard messy equipment room, right? And you've got wires just pouring out of the wall, like like you have a water leak and you need one of those flow sensor things and $5 a month.
Right.
None of the electrical panels have actual covers on them right now, so like this is clearly under construction, and what makes me laugh is on the bottom right hand side, you can see a computer monitor down there with a couple of like a grid on it of cameras. And so
there you go.
I know what happened here. I know like they may have had all this wrapped up or sitting off to the side, and they got a call from the builder or the homeowner and said, I need my camera system turned on now.
Yep.
You guys need to get out here and install this. And
so
I see that going on.
Yeah.
But that's on the left-hand side of this picture. On the right-hand side is kind of like maybe, day 2, where they got all the wires kind of like tamed a little bit. They've got a little bit of work left to do on that. But It looks like a network switch is up and going with a temporary router sitting there, and
racks mounted on the wall.
Yeah, they've been busy. So I can't see the floor. I can only imagine what it looks like, but it's getting there, and I'll have to keep an eye on these guys to see what they end up. The final version of this looks like.
Yeah. Platinum Audio Visual. Let's see, on Twitter looks like Ben_Platinum. And this, I think, Seth, you came across via our friends over at HomeTech Gallery, who we've had on the show before. So very cool. All right. Well, we'll move on. We actually didn't mention here really quickly as we close up the show. I think I accidentally glossed over it a little bit. Any of those stories, news links, Plex links, any of that we talked about, you can find on our show notes at HomeTech.fm/216. And while you're there, don't forget to sign up for our weekly newsletter. We'll send you weekly show reminders and some additional analysis and industry news that may or may not have made the show. So once again, the link is HomeTech.fm/216.
And as usual, we want to give a big thank you to everyone who supports the show, and especially those who are able to financially support the show through our Patreon page. If you don't know about our Patreon page, head on over to HomeTech.fm/support to learn more. You can support HomeTech for as little as $1 a month. Any pledge over $5 a month gets you a shout out here on the air. But every single pledge, if it's $1 or $5 or whatever dollars, gets you an invite to our private Slack channel, chat room, The Hub, which it's been pretty active recently. So you get in there and you talk to other supporters of the show and talk about, it looks like Instagram TV is going to be a topic coming up here for days. I think
IGTV.
Everybody's talking about that.
Game changer.
IGTV.
All right. Yeah, very good. Cool. Well, definitely, like we mentioned earlier in the episode, be sure to tune in next week. We've got another installment of the Projects Project coming up. Joe Albion has been kind enough to agree to come on and share his project, and he is an enthusiast that's really rolled up his sleeves and over the long haul really dug in and figured out a whole bunch of cool stuff for his home. So network, video, audio, lighting, sprinklers, doorbell, AV, you name it. He's got a whole bunch of future projects as well lined up. So he's got quite a bit going on, and we'll look forward to chatting with Joe on next week's episode. So be sure to tune in for that.
Sounds good, man. That's the whole 9 yards right there. That's a lot of stuff. So can't wait to hear it. All right, Jason, I'm glad to have you back, and we'll talk to you next week.
All right, sounds good. Take care, Seth.